everyone, and welcome to the Chairish Live Art Show series. My name is Amanda Morris, and I am the resident art expert here at Chairish. For those of you who don't know Chairish, we're the Design Lovers online source for chic furniture, decor, and of course, art. We have such an incredible selection of artwork on the site, from paintings to sculpture to photography, you name it. And what's really special about our assortment is that a lot of it is sold directly from the artists themselves. And with this live art show, we wanted to bring you the unique opportunity to meet the artists and hear from them directly, to see deeper into their practice, which only makes their work that much more covetable. Today, I am so excited to be talking with one of our favorite artists, Happy Menocal. We'll chat with her about her studio practice, collaborations, how she got her start, all the good stuff. At the end of the show, I'll also be sharing my top 5 picks under 300, plus some styling tips, so be sure to stick around for that. I'm honored to introduce our featured artist, Happy Menocal. Happy has been an artist with us for the past year. She works from her gorgeous New York studio, where I had the pleasure of visiting this year. On Chairish, you can find her original artwork, stationery, fabric line with Schumacher, an exclusive line of prints in our Chairish print shop. So without further ado, Happy, welcome, and thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Amanda. Thank you.
Hi. So it's fair to say that you are a total Renaissance woman, from paintings to stationery, illustrations, lampshades, fabric. You really do it all. Let's take it way back to the start. Where and when and how did you begin your art career?
Well, I appreciate that question. I usually answer by describing my sort of move from my first job right out of college at an advertising agency, doing drawing illustrations for storyboards, and then moving into doing weddings. But I actually think, like, I hadn't, when you asked me this, I hadn't thought much about this, but like going farther back, one of my favorite things that I would do, and my mom actually has one of them, is I made like a trompe-l'oeil like breakfast tray. So it was like a real tray, and I'm not sure who furnished the tray for me. Maybe it was like a school project. And then I made like an overhead view thing of all the foods. So like a little like blue and white china with like poached eggs and like a half a grapefruit. I mean, it's all kind of like poorly rendered, but and like a coffee or like a milky tea in a napkin. So I think I always sort of liked like decorative art, and you know, the idea of kind of quasi-utilitarian items.
I love that. I think we need to bring back that tray and somehow.
I have it. I know. I've actually looked into trying to kind of replicate that idea in collaboration with my mom, and we just need to kind of find the right, you know, tray and all the bits.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And then you started with wedding suites, right?
And yeah, like, you know, when I was in my sort of mid to late 20s, my friends started getting married. And, you know, this was sort of like right on the cusp of Pinterest and all the, you know, what we now understand to be this sort of boom of influence. And we didn't really quite have that. So, you know, everyone was sort of going it alone on figuring out what their aesthetic was going to be, and you know, how they wanted to kind of present themselves as a new family, and how they wanted to kind of party. And so I had my dear friend asked me to design her invitations, and I had this idea to create a coat of arms. And obviously, you know, that's an ancient tradition, but I sort of brought it into the world of 21st century weddings.
I love that. So I know we just briefly mentioned your mom, but your mom, Catherine Burnwell, is also an artist with us. And even though your styles are a little bit different, I imagine she was an influence as well.
Oh yeah, completely. I mean, yeah, she's like a realist. And she also has a legit background. I mean, she studied in Florence, and she did restoration at the Uffizi Gallery after the Arno River flooded, like in the, I guess, early 70s, maybe late 60s. And she studied there, and then later went on to do like trompe-l'oeil murals and things. but, you know, so having her around and sort of just knowing that that was like a career option, I think subliminally kind of gave me a lot of ideas and confidence. But I always kind of beat my own drummer, and, you know, I never really learned to draw. So everything you know, people I think generously call my style sort of naive, but it's truly just that I never, you know, I sort of am fudging it. Um, but I have a lot of, you know, bravura. So it's worked out for me in my own way.
I love it. Well, I would go for more whimsical. I think that's a more accurate description. And
Yeah.
you know, I actually remember years back, I saw one of your holiday cards and it had like cutout windows that revealed like various illustrated scenes. And I
Oh,
just
yeah.
remember thinking how creative and whimsical and like completely next level it was.
Oh, I thank you. That was our we were actually, that was based on, we were building that house. It was like a townhouse in Brooklyn, and that was based on like the sketch that I presented to the engineer, and he was like laughing at me. I was like, the windows were like, you know, it was an unrealistic model, but I ended up using it for my own purposes.
I love it. I love it. Well, needless to say, I've been a fan for a long time. So I was thrilled to start working with you when we worked on your first collaboration at Chairish last year. So let's talk about that collection, the first collection. How did you approach it?
So it was a huge challenge, actually, because, you know, we until now really we've almost only done in the studio, we've almost only created things that were completely custom. So whether it was stationery or you know, a mural, or you know, branding for like a hospitality project, it was always, you know, the assignment was always very particular to that project. So for the first time, I had this kind of boundless opportunity, and I kind of just like, I didn't know where to go. So I really just thought about like what I wanted. And at the time it was, I can't remember now where exactly we were, but it was COVID land.
Yeah.
And so I was really in the mood to like party and like see people, because that was something that was not possible. So, you know, I think it was a very sort of social
Yeah.
and energetic collection in that way. The prints and the stationery have like a very
Yeah.
uh, energetic uh, feel.
Absolutely. No, that really comes through. And then tell us about the materials that you used, because it was very different from the watercolor that we were used to seeing with you.
Yeah, that's part of it. Like working at the scale of the large originals that also became prints. Um, you know, typically the stuff I make is quite small, and so you know, I use like a little fine little brush,
Mhm.
or sort of a medium guy.
Yeah.
Um, but because I wanted to cover some ground, I thought, gosh, I don't want to do like fussy little line work on this. I want to create this sort of dynamic feeling. So I bought a bunch of pastels, which I used to love as a kid. I used to use the oil pastels as a kid, which are sort of
Yeah.
greasier, but I wanted something kind of dusty, that I could kind of smear around and create a sort of light effect that would match my watercolor and not feel totally out of line with it.
Yeah.
Um, and I wanted to use these beautiful Canson papers, which come in a million colors, as my grounds. So, and then once I did them, I thought, gosh, these do feel, it doesn't quite feel me, like I needed the water. So I incorporated gouache, and it really worked. I've actually gotten into, I'm now like, that's kind of my, I feel like that's my medium.
Yeah, no, and I think, you know, it's so interesting that you were talking about how the subjects were, you know, very about like togetherness and being lively, because I do think that smearing around did create that effect of feeling very lively, and there's a lot of movement in them. So, so I think that was really successful, and I hadn't thought about it that way. Well, it was no surprise that we sold through all of your originals. But I love that we can spread the love with our prints in the Chairish print shop. It is worth noting that they are offered in 3 different sizes and 3 different frame colors to choose from. So buyers don't need to feel limited, and can choose the best one for their space. So given the huge success with these prints, we were so excited to work with you again this year for another launch. And I love that this series did feel like a continuation of that previous artwork, but it was arranged a little bit differently. So tell us how you approached this round.
Okay, so part of it was just totally logistical. I was like, I still wanted to use the canson paper and I wanted to use the pastels and the gouache, but I was like, I want to be able to like try something, dash it off, scan it, and see if I like it. And I didn't have that flexibility when I did the big, large ones because I had to send them to a professional, large bed scanner. My scanner is small. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to do some little tests. I'll do like a portion of a large scale drawing and on a small sheet and scan it. And so I did that. And then I realized how cool it looked to have these sort of 4 quadrants that were actually separate pieces of paper that come together to form a single composition. And I realized like, oh, that looks great. And how great will that look? It kind of gives, if the person who owns the original has the flexibility to either frame all 4 pieces separately and kind of space them as they wish, or put them all, mount them all on one thing and frame the whole thing. So it kind of enables like a different sort of fragmented perspective. And and part of it is also just sort of, it's like seeing the world through a window, which again, like that is still sort of where I am mentally. I'm one of them features the beach at Ipanema, where I've never been. So I'm sort of viewing it through a window. And then the other features the interior of like a nightclub, like a cabaret or a nightclub. So again, it's a little bit of this feeling of sort of viewing something, through a window and something fun and like real pleasure, but seen from a
Totally. And I love that with these, again, we have them in the Chairish print shop. And I think what's so nice is they look amazing as the quadrant as you planned them out to be, but they also can stand alone as individual pieces as well. So I think that was, really exciting. And it's the first time we've offered something like that. So let's switch gears and chat stationery, because I just love your collection so much. And given your start in wedding suites, I imagine you had a lot of demand for these.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we have been wanting to do ready-made stationery forever, and there has been a ton of demand for it, and it's just been hard to kind of find a minute. So this opportunity has been wonderful. Yeah, the first batch we did, one fully custom, like the Celestial, which has a fully custom envelope with this beautiful kind of full illustrated kind of tableau. And then Spring Fever is just like a border with a beautiful pistachio envelope. And then the new collection, we went kind of darker and richer with the bugs, also a full custom envelope. And then Volt is our sort of electrical, kinetic, kind of abstract motif. So for each one, there's like a more organic and a more abstract. And I hope people use them and write people that they love with joy.
Yeah, and I love the boxes.
I think yeah, we're so proud of the boxes. Here I have one.
Oh.
It's hard to tell in my terrible lighting, but the ribbon is a beautiful silk, and this is foil stamped here, and you just slide the cards right out and kind of store them in this thing for as long as you need them.
Yeah, and makes a great gift as well, I would say, especially given the box. Yeah. And so then last but not least, I wanted to congratulate you on your recent launch with Schumacher. We have the pillows on our site, and we're so excited to add to the collection of the product we already have.
I'm so excited too. And we just feel, it's a great opportunity for people who, honestly, like myself until recently, like, aren't really there yet wanting to upholster a piece of furniture or wallpaper a room, but they, want a piece of the collection, and having a few pillows is just a gorgeous way to tap into that.
Definitely. Well, Happy, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. This was so fun.
Oh, thank you so much, Amanda.
Thanks. So don't forget to follow Happy's storefront so you can get notifications when she has new inventory. Her original artwork is rare to market, so you'll want to pounce on these. Closing out the show with my top 5 favorite pieces under 300, along with some tips for how you can style them in your home. First up is a piece by the artist Anne-Louise Ewan. This is a print of an original oil painting depicting the Greek goddess Circe. Now, if you don't know much about Greek mythology, Circe is one of my favorite mythological figures. She is a total femme fatale that lived harmoniously with the flora and fauna on this deserted island, which I think is so wonderfully captured here. It's pictured here in a gold frame, but note that it's also available in white and in natural wood as well, also offered in a few different sizes. The artist, Anne-Louise Ewan, is based in Joshua Tree, California, and paints these really vivacious gestural works that emphasize color and the idea of freedom. They're all really, really special. This piece serves as a great example for how art can tie a room together. When you think about styling a space, your furniture, art, decor do not have to match, but more so they can really just speak to each other. So maybe something like this, it's placed by a window that looks to the outside or near an indoor botanical you might have. Separate from styling, art is really all about the feeling it evokes. This piece, to me, it's dreamy and grounding and feels very transportive. So I think it would be a great addition to a bedroom or a reading nook, right? Again, this is Anne-Louise Ewan's Circe with Tiny Tigers. The rest of her work is equally as dreamy, so do make sure to check out the rest of her artwork on Chairish as well. Next up, we have this punchy print of an original oil painting by the artist Daniel Falcon. Daniel is based in Brooklyn, New York, and has created a series of these very charming, surrealist, faceless portraits. Beyond his wonderful color sensibility, what really amazes me is how much character each of his figures have. To be able to convey that without the natural expressiveness of a face makes these all the more captivating. Now, we at Chairish are no strangers to bold, punchy color, but for some that can be a little outside their comfort zone. So I am here to tell you, don't be afraid of color. You do not have to live in a rainbow mansion to make this kind of piece work for you. I think this would be such a fun piece to have in a small and unexpected place like the end of a hallway or in a monotone room. Using these kinds of bright pops of color to an otherwise neutral part of your house really brings a sudden energy and excitement to it. So on to my next pick. I had to include intaglios in my top 5. The constant resurgence of neoclassical themes in art and design really comes as no surprise when you consider its ode to classical art and architecture from the ancient Roman and Greek times. Intaglios are one of my favorite ways to incorporate this style into your space. So what is an intaglio? Intaglios date way back to the Roman Empire, where they were historically created to be used as wax seals. But then later in the late 18th, early 19th centuries, we're talking Bridgerton era, they were recreated mostly in plaster to be purchased as souvenirs during one's grand tour, which was a tradition where young European men and women would travel for months or even years to visit the major cultural sites of Europe. Sounds pretty great, right? So these bite-sized plaster intaglios would most often depict historical or mythological figures and scenes, and then serve as a memento from their travels. So now in today's market, you can find vintage or reproduction intaglios, often arranged in shadow boxes or framed like this one here. And they look so lovely displayed on the wall. The intaglio you're seeing here is framed with a mat that has a beautiful beveled edge that goes right around the intaglio. We partnered with a framer based in Atlanta to create these, and we had him offer a handful of different colored intaglios, but I personally love this deep red. It gives a nod to the original wax seal origin, but it also feels really fresh. Aside from the historical reference, I just love the idea of having a framed object alongside a painting or a print because it makes your walls that much more dynamic. The last thing I'll note about these is they look really stellar in sets. Next up are these great botanical prints from the artist Sarah Gordon. And there's so many botanical prints out there. Who doesn't love botanicals? But I find her designs to be really successful at striking such a good balance between being bold, both in the design and color choices, but then also having this wispy and lively element that you get from those little tendrils that very beautifully dance around the page. And this goes for all of her pieces. She has a lot of them. And they all have different color and size options. So you'll definitely want to check out her storefront because it was impossible for me to just choose one. Style tip, get a set. Putting together a cohesive gallery wall can be a challenge, certainly, but if you find a single artist that works with the same colors and styles, you can very easily put together a super stylish and cohesive arrangement. Sarah Gordon is the perfect artist for this because you can mix and match her work however you'd like. Same palette with different subjects, same subjects with different backgrounds. You can't go wrong. It will all look good together. Last but not least, I wanted to share with you guys this print of an original drawing. Yes, it is a drawing. This is by Jack Verhoog, who is a London-based illustrator who does these hyper-realist drawings in colored pencil. He's insanely talented, and I love that his subjects have a pop art influence in them. It's a limited edition, so if you're interested, you'll definitely want to pounce on these. Style tip, art doesn't always need to be hung on walls. Incorporate it into a bookshelf, lean it on a console or a credenza, or even your kitchen counter. And if you're like me and you need help visualizing it, we have the perfect tool. It's called the View in My Space feature on our Chairish app. It uses augmented reality and enables you to virtually try out products in your space before you buy it. It's a game changer. Check it out. So that brings us to the end of our first Chairish live show. We'll be hanging around in chat for any remaining questions. And please note that we have an art concierge service always at the ready to help you find the perfect piece for your space. Just email artconcierge@chairish.com to get started. Thank you again to Happy, and thank you all for joining us. We so look forward to seeing you at the next one. Bye, guys.